If you're not already subscribed to this YouTube channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button now, along with the bell icon so you can be notified whenever a new video is posted. And if you're already subscribed, check and make sure that YouTube hasn't unsubscribed you. And of course, be sure to give the video a like as well as share it on your social media. The white supremacists hate that. And now, the Sunday Address. A bill to study reparations was proposed in the Maryland state legislature by its Black Legislative Caucus. Yeah, that's already 2 red flags, but that's not the point. It's a study bill, and not the first one the state's had, mind you, so nobody's getting their skirts blown up about that, certainly not me. In fact, Maryland's governor, a weasel named Wes Moore, admitted the state has had several commissions and studies to examine the legacy of slavery. So this is nothing new for Maryland, and yet this same governor, the state's first black governor, mind you, was quaking in his boots and determined to be the first to declare that he was going to veto this latest reparations study proposal. Why? Well, it's not because it isn't popular. Maryland's legislative house voted for the bill 101 to 36, and the state senate approved it 31 to 13. In fact, support for this reparations study bill was so overwhelming that there's enough to override Governor Moore's veto. That is, if all the members who voted for the bill decided to vote as a group against the governor's veto, they could override it. Now, of course, to be realistic, nobody seriously believes that these people are going to put their eggheads together and say, yeah, let's go ahead and override the governor on this one. But the point is, no matter what the shills and DNC plants and bootlicks may try to tell you, if you say the word reparations, everybody's not just going to curl up into a ball and say, no, 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 we'll never vote for it in a million years. We won't even talk about it. When liars try to tell you that no reparations legislation will ever get through a legislative committee, much less pass a vote, and that reparations is politically toxic and unfeasible, and that we have to be realistic, you can call them liars. These anti-black racist tether shills and bootlicks, they know something that too many black folks don't realize. When you start making demands and sticking to your guns, that's when the impossible starts to become possible. As long as we're being shy and bashful about our demands, that tells everyone else that we're not serious. When we stop caring about offending anyone else, then we see things start to move. Now, none of this stuff is happening by accident. As we saw in California, it's the Democrat governors who are the main ones opposing reparations whenever it comes down to the wire. They're realizing that they can't use these studies as a stalling tactic anymore because the black grassroots have mobilized and made sure these issues don't just die a natural death and get forgotten about. We're forcing them to follow up on it, and that's a threat. If they claim to have done a study, then the black grassroots has shown that they're going to force it to become action and not to stop at an empty proposal. Democrats saw this in California, that the black grassroots refused to let the issue stop at some do-nothing study, so now the issue has become so threatening to the white power structure that they're threatened even to have a study done. This is how bad it's gotten for them. Okay, and what is the first black governor of Maryland's excuse for declaring that he's going to veto any talk of a reparations study? He said it was because the job is to narrow the racial wealth gap, expand home ownership, uplift entrepreneurs of color, and close the foundational disparities that lead to inequality. Now notice that nowhere in there did he say a word about black people, or slavery, or institutional discrimination against us. He instead just regurgitated the same old Democrat word salad that we've been hearing for over a century. And everything that he named was just the same old boilerplate crap that applies to everyone. You can't narrow the racial wealth gap if you're just proposing the same old lift every boat policy that created the racial wealth gap in the first place. And you'll also notice he made sure to slip in the phrase entrepreneurs of color. That train is never late. This is what he claims is focusing on the work. Now, you know why white power chose this clown to be the stalking horse for governor. Black voters have made their demand, and this guy's replying with the same old avalanche of gibberish, and if it sounds familiar, it should. Talking nonsense about, what these Negroes are talking about, this is unimportant. We need to focus on the work and expand and uplift and yakety-smackety, food insecurity and education. And if this kind of pathetic talk about how we need to focus on what the voters really want, if that kind of deflection and dodge sounds familiar, it should.
That phrase, defund the police, cost Jamie Harrison tremendously. Stop sloganeering. And let's go about the business of representing people and building hopes and aspirations for people.
Negro Jim Clyburn spouted that garbage 5 years ago, and as the white media never tires of reminding us, he's the highest-ranking black politician in America, which is basically the same as being the head janitor at a sewage treatment plant. And look what he did. He attacked defunding the police, claiming that Democrats needed to focus on more important things like improving the lot of working families, etc. Okay, black voters gave Democrats control of the Congress and the White House during that very same election that Clyburn was whining about. They made Biden president. And what did Clyburn and his pals do for working families or anyone else during that 4 years? Absolutely nothing. And here you have Westmore proving that this is an intentional Democrat program at work. At least Gavin Newsom didn't try to pretend like he could talk his way out of vetoing reparations. He just let his Negro puppets in the State Assembly Black Caucus do his dirty work for him while he hid in the back. But it's what Westmore said next that proves that there's not a dime's bit of difference between Democrats and Republicans, because he tried to justify vetoing reparations on the grounds that black politicians have risen to the highest levels of government in recent years, so that proves that there's no real need for reparations. The bastard actually had the nerve to say that. He didn't say a word about how black citizens in Maryland are doing. He talked about black politicians, like himself. So all he cares about are career politicians. As long as he's doing good, then black America has nothing to complain about. So 3 or 4 black political office holders means that 2 million black Maryland residents are doing great now? Could you imagine a white Democrat saying a lie like that? Even Gavin Newsom didn't dare try it. That's why Democrats made this clown the governor. There's also a message to white society, too, that Westmore was sending. He wants to be the black face saying black people don't need anything, and they don't have a valid grievance, and there's no need for reparations. Why? There's already all this progress that's been made, and we're already doing the work, so reparations aren't necessary. First of all, when he says crap like, look at all the black people in political office, there's only a small handful, so he's lying by pretending as if there's racial parity in elected office. And also, he's using the talking point that we hear from the white right whenever reparations is brought up. Why, look at all these black people in the NBA, buddy. Look at all these NFL players, buddy. That's reparations, buddy. Except it's not some sawed-off white right-winger spouting this garbage this time. It's your, allegedly, first black governor of Maryland who's doing it. This is the same thing that Republicans say. They're the ones who claim that there's no racism because they're Negro puppets like Daniel Cameron and Mark Thompson and that tether in Virginia, Winsome Sears, these sellouts and bootlicks, they're in high office in their state. And so that proves there is no racism. And these sellouts are the first ones to say that too. America's not racist. Why? Look at what happened. They selected me. I got elected to be state attorney general or to be senator or to be lieutenant governor or something. So that proves that there's no racism and hence no need for reparations. We should be dealing with other issues like institutional pay disparities and the home ownership issues. So, since the white political powers that be have given them some token positions, black people as a group don't need anything. Haven't we done enough for you people already? Geez, we gave you a biracial president. Isn't that enough? That's the well that Westmore's drawing from. He literally is saying that his being governor is reparations. This is the political equivalent of one giant Negro. That's what this is. You don't have to care about what's happening with 99% of the black population of Maryland. Why, you got this one token Negro who's governor. And that being the case, if you met one, you met them all. And he says don't worry about it, and we don't have to because it's all one big Negro anyway. And it shows you that when it comes to black people and our demands, Democrats and Republicans are on the exact same page, using the exact same talking points, and doing it for the exact same reason. Secondly, though, this is the legacy of Barack Obama. By voting for a biracial, self-interested social climber, black voters demonstrated that we were fully willing to vote for someone because we still bought into the black faces in high places crap. Well, black faces mean nothing if they're backing an anti-black agenda. Black faces carrying out white power's dirty work is not an improvement. Problem is, too many black people are purely aspirational. We try to live vicariously through athletes, entertainers, actors, and politicians. The dominant society knows this, and so do their bootlicks like Westmore and Barack Obama and Karen Bass. Black Maryland residents voted for Westmore without actually getting any promises from him. Now the shills and liars and bootlicks will tell you he couldn't make no promise about reparations. He has to focus on everyone's, not just black people's.
So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No, because whatever benefits that black family will benefit that community and society as a whole and the country. Right?
Reparations ain't politically popular. Well, I showed you that the Maryland state legislature already had a vote on whether or not to study it, and it was overwhelmingly popular. And then Governor Moore tried to sprinkle sugar on crap by claiming that black misleaders like himself have been uplifting black families and addressing racial disparities. His having a government job does nothing for poverty in Baltimore. It doesn't address the massive housing crisis that black Maryland residents have been enduring. And yet he's telling black people in Maryland they should just be content to bask in the glow of him being governor. That doesn't pay anyone's bills. And as long as he's getting what he wants, well, I guess it doesn't matter. This scumbag thinks that he's going to become president in 2028. That's what this is. You can tell when you got some sorry Negro who thinks that he's teeing up some would-be presidential campaign. First order of business, tell everybody I'm not on black people's side. That's why I keep reminding you about Barack Obama's debut party, the 2004 Democratic National Convention. That was the first time that most of America was introduced to the young senatorial candidate from Illinois. Because that's the place where he stood in front of the whole doggone world and said, there is no black America, there is no white America, only the United States of America.
There is not a black America and a white America and Latino America and Asian America. There's the United States of America.
Yeah, all of these black bootlicks and suck-ups in politics, they know exactly what the dominant society wants to hear. And that's how you tell everybody, I'm trying to appeal to a non-black audience. You tell them, I'm not even looking at this racial thing. Race, well, I don't really see race. Reparations, we don't need that. We're already doing the work. That's what this is. The same con over and over. And just like Daniel Cameron, who was also dumb enough to think that he was going to make it to higher office over black people's dead bodies, Wes Moore has another thing coming if he thinks that the same white Democrats who put him up to this mess are going to make him president. And he's not on planet Earth if he thinks that black voters will ever support him after this. He's guaranteed that governor is as far as his political career will go. That is, unless some future white Democrat president does what Biden did for Kamala Harris and hands him a cabinet position or something. But if he tries to run for anything in his own right, his political chances are already DOA. And he saved the most cynical remarks for last, saying, now is not the time for another study. Now is the time for continued action that delivers results. The damned insult. That's a complete and thorough contradiction. If there was continued action, nobody would be talking about a study. Of course, he knows that black poverty, black unemployment, and every other relevant metric for the black community has only gotten worse, not better. There hasn't been any action. The black community has been categorically ignored and attacked and betrayed. Though I would say that if you were one of the black voters in Maryland silly enough to vote for a clown like Wes Moore, you weren't betrayed. He didn't deceive you. Wes Moore never promised to do anything for black voters. And he kept his word. So when you think about Karen Bass and Stephen Reed and Wes Moore, you can put them in the same category as Barack Obama and every other political whore who made their deal with the devil. They are every bit the enemy of the black community as a Strom Thurmond or a Donald Trump. In fact, they're worse. Because at least with Trump, Stephen Miller, and their racist pals, they don't pretend to be on black people's side, and even if they tried, black people have no illusions about these racists. As the black media, we've been telling you for nearly 20 years that the most vicious lies about us, the most belligerent opposition and attacks that we would face would come from Democrats, not Republicans, and that the main ones who the Democrats would put out front to attack us would be these black sock puppets. Remember, the attack on woke didn't start with the white right. It started with Barack Obama when he was attacking protesters against police violence. Woke was the term that those people were using. It had made it into the white media, and Barack Obama was the first one to come out against it. White power uses its Negro sock puppets to break the ice on these kind of anti-black talking points. That makes it okay for the white Democrats to come along later and formally attack it and say, well, you can't say it's racist because Barack Obama attacked it first. And you can't say that attacking people for saying defund the police is a bad thing because we had Negro Jim Clyburn out here doing it. And you can't say that attacking even a study on reparations is anti-black racism because look who we had. Wes Moore says it's not necessary. He says we're already doing the work. This is the reason that we say it makes no sense to vote for Democrats. The shills and plants we see in the comments section always get real quiet times like this. Because they're also like Wes Moore. These shills you're seeing posting crap about vote blue no matter who, they're also trying to finesse themselves a job or some position as a consultant or some other form of operative for the Democrats. These shills and plants are also only looking for a come up for themselves. The white media has falsely claimed that black activists, I mean the real ones, not phony sock puppets like DeRay McKesson, the white media says that we are radical extremists, merely for demanding common sense policies that would improve things. Well, you know what? Maryland needs some extremists who will go on a crusade against this Wes Moore creep. There must be a one-to-one correlation between liars who stand in the way of our interest and the political downfall that follows. The white media puts false labels on people and movements in order to try to program the public to be opposed to them or to be in favor of them, whatever the white media and its rich white owners want. And as we've seen time and time again, whenever these propaganda campaigns fail, the white media will not acknowledge that. Instead, they'll fall silent, slither away, and try to talk about something else. The issue of reparations has been moved from obscurity to the fringe, and now we've pushed it into the mainstream. It's been and will continue to be a political issue in several states. They've tried to redefine reparations as anything from a housing voucher to an apology, but foundational Black Americans have made it clear that reparations is one thing and one thing only: cash. Even the Aryan propagandists, Associated Press piece, acknowledged that fact. We've kept the bastards from redefining reparations, so now we see them desperately trying to put the genie back in the bottle and saying, well, we're not even going to discuss it. Since you refuse to stop talking about it, since you refuse to let the issue go away, they're now telling Black people that you've already got reparations. That Black governor over there, that's your reparations, buddy. And it's Democrats doing this. It's all about controlling the narrative. Even in states like Maryland and Georgia, where Black voters make all the difference, the white media will never say, so-and-so lost this election because of the issue of reparations. They'll never say, well, this person was out of step with Black voters and Black support was low and that's what cost them the election. You got to be more in tune with the Black community. You got to step up for what the Black community demands. You got to listen to them and then do what they say. The white media will never say that, because they understand that part of their job is to program the public mind through the use of lies. So they'll say that abortion is what's important to elections. You got to pay attention to those illegal immigrants, even though they can't vote. And the war in wherever the hell, that's what's important, because none of those things threatens the white status quo. But when it comes to Black people, they will never say that a politician lost an election because Black voters made their displeasure felt. They will never say that these politicians have to pay attention to what Black people are saying, especially when it's things that threaten the white power structure. Even in 2020, they didn't say that. They simply said that Black voters allegedly really liked Biden, and they left it at that. In 2024, the narrative became that Black men are all sexist. But at no point did they point out Kamala Harris's record. Instead, they tried to reduce it to a marketing issue. Barack Obama wasn't condescending enough to Black men. He didn't browbeat them enough into voting. When you don't have credibility, you have to try to substitute name recognition for it. That's where the white media's monopoly comes in. Most people don't do their homework. And the only way to educate the voters is to either inspire them to check people's paperwork or by having a robust enough organization in place that it can get its own name out there and get over the white media filters. This is why both parties are behind the program to keep Black people poor, so that they maintain their monopoly on the Black public mind. That way they can have some sellout like Westmore show up, pay some pork chop preachers or some other bought and paid for so-called community activists to vouch for them. White power has always relied on the use of sellouts and traitors to mislead Black people. Westmore just got through telling you that so long as he's getting what he wants, to hell with you. Black people don't need to be prosperous, just him. The damn nerve of that bastard. Now, if he was from any other group and said that to those constituencies, they would have already pulled his coat and he would have been finished politically. But in the Black community, too many of us choose to get our news from fools like the breakfast schlubs or some other morning FM comedy routine. Politics is serious business, family, and you can't call yourself informed when you get your news and views from the class clowns. At some point, Black folks have to take personal responsibility for our decision-making. And that starts by not listening to every Tom, Dick, and Harry who comes along telling us that they're down for the struggle. Black people will have to get in these bastards' faces, not merely to put pressure on them, but to make it clear we can take the issue out of their hands. We knew from the beginning that this wasn't going to be easy. And I'm not saying we should be settling for studies, by the way, because I know there's some people who don't listen so well who will say that. That's not what this is about. This is about the fact that the Black grassroots have pushed the needle and stretched the envelope to the point they know that unlike NCOBRA and these other do-nothing sellout groups, we're not going to let reparations stop at a study. We're getting closer to that critical mass of Black people who have returned to the tradition of seeing politics on a continuum and not in the narrow confines that white power has conditioned us to see it. Once we force something into the political discourse, now we're demanding that they act on it. We've put their backs to the wall repeatedly. Using a study as a stalling tactic isn't going to work. They see where this is going. To the money. The very thing that they spent 500 years desperately trying to avoid. The enemy knows exactly how dangerous a moment this is for them. They know that when Black people make it a point to push for something, we usually get it if we show the persistence. Our problem is that too many black people have been consistently inconsistent. White power has noticed this pattern about us, and they're hoping that once again they can wait us out. Send their bootlicks and minions out to tell us, well, we're just not going to do it and that's that. And then they wait to see if we stop pushing for what's ours. The exercise of power is comprised of two functions: promoting what is in your interest and punishing those who get in the way. Seeing liars and trash like Westmore sent packing, that is the kind of action and results that black families and black people in general require. Good evening, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors: Bo McLean, C. Bennett, Alfredo Roberts, Neil Saphir, and Mustang Crazy ATL. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.